Segment 3, Gold and Black Live, and Brian Neubert joins us. Purdue will be taking to the court for its second regular season game when it takes on Oakland tonight, 7 o'clock, Mackey Arena. Brian Neubert will be there with bells on as the Boilermakers look to continue their non-conference winning streak, which is a long one. I'm not even sure what it is, but it's 13
in Mackey Arena, not
in Mackey Arena. I'm talking about, and it is a long one. Purdue also did win its 13th straight season opener on Tuesday night with a win over Evansville. All right, Brian. I don't know. Oakland gave up 121 points to Michigan. Of course, Michigan and Purdue figure to be two of the top teams in the Big Ten race this year. Not that we know a lot about Oakland outside of the fact that they were the darling of the NCAA tournament a couple of years ago, but just another chance, I think, to see how this team being Purdue is going to learn to play together, and what you'll see out of it. Whether Trey Kaufman plays much tonight will also be a storyline, but anything else I should be watching for when Purdue takes on Oakland tonight?
Well, yeah, this is what Oakland does every year.
Yeah.
There aren't many coaches in college basketball with 100% approval rating. Greg Campy's one of them.
Yes, he
People
is.
love the guy. He's been there for like 1,000 years. But he's kind of like
42nd year, right?
He's kind of like a coach's coach. Everybody likes him. And part of the reason for that is the respect he earns is that he takes his team, he goes, plays everybody, plays Michigan State every year, plays Purdue pretty regularly, goes to Michigan every year. And part of that is Oakland's level. You got to fund your athletic department to these games, but also he's kind of like Matt Painter in the sense that he wants to go and face really good teams right away. And then when you get to your league, you're better. When you get to the NCAA tournament, you're better. And you remember they beat, who was it, Auburn a couple of years ago?
Right, knocked off.
Yeah,
right. And like you said, got to be one of the, he's got to be the darling of the NCAA tournament. 42nd year. That is just unbelievable. In fact,
what's funny is he must have been in his 20s when he got the job. Obviously he was, because he doesn't look like he's
right. No, he was in 1978. Yeah. In fact, segment 2 guest Mike Steele talked about his relationship with him because he knew him when Mike was at Bowling Green, and Campy was a punter on the football team, and also played, obviously played basketball there. But yeah, a really incredible story. And one thing from them is that they'll give, and Matt Painter seems to get that out of his opponents, even though Evansville, as it turned out, ended up being somewhat of a rout at the end of that game or the second half, but gets teams that come in and play hard, and that's what's going to happen from Oakland.
Yeah, I think Painter, if you have to have these bye games, which you do, because you have to play X number of games, you'd like to have people who are used to winning, who are, proud of their programs, who are, have stakes in their seasons. A lot of these teams, might not sound like much to the high major observer, but a lot of them are good in their leagues.
Yeah.
And I think when you have these lower level games, these bye games against people who are going to be competitive against their peers through the course of the year, I think they give you much more fight. It doesn't always show up on the scoreboard, but they give you much more fight than you would be if you played a 330 net ranking team, Alabama A&M, Maryland Upshore or Eastern Shore. Upshore. No,
that's South Carolina Upstate.
South Carolina Upstate, Maryland Eastern Shore are the two weird hyphenated by game names. But Chicago State, places like that just don't even belong on the floor with people like Purdue. But this is the college basketball ecosystem, and they've got to play games too, and they need the money. And again, you have to play X number of games, so you have to play somebody. But I think, Matt Painter will take Oakland over, Maryland, Upstate, Eastern Shore, A&M every day of the week, because these are programs used to winning and well prepared, well coached, and proud of themselves.
Yeah, it's funny. You almost had me confused with former Purdue women's coach Sharon Versup, who is at South Carolina Beaufort. not south, not upstate. So totally unrelated. But all right, obviously the Fletcher Lawyer's 30-point game. He is last week, or excuse me, earlier this week against Evansville. Braden Smith's 11 assists. Purdue's offense is not, I wouldn't say necessarily running on all cylinders just yet. Still some ways trying to find itself, but those two guys are kind of doing what they're doing. I know you've written extensively about what you think Smith's numbers may be this year in terms of the final evaluation and scoring, and also the fact that he's going to get his assists. He only took 9 shots in the last game and hit 3 of them. But I know there's no reason for concern, but that's just the way Purdue's going to play in terms of they've got weapons everywhere you turn. And some guys are going to have big nights and big numbers, and other nights they won't. Smith's been that way a little bit his entire career, but anything to make of that in terms of what you expect to see, not just tonight, but as Purdue gets into some of these tougher games, Alabama next week on down the line.
Well, I think this is going to sound like an ESPN kind of hot take, but
yeah.
So if you're on YouTube TV, close your browser right now.
I know.
I think the only statistic, for Braden Smith this year that he'll be judged by when all is said and done is the win total.
I mean, I agree with that.
You get to a certain point as a player where it just comes down to how great was your team, and he's proven himself in that regard. He's proven himself in the individual regard, but the assist record is something we're going to talk about all year, as we should. It's a really big deal.
Yeah.
But I think looking at the kind of underpinnings of his statistics, I think that he's going to get his stats. Remember, he's playing right now without Trey Copeland, and that's going to be a guy who accounts for a lot of his assists this year. So we'll see what everything looks like when he's back. But I think that it is really important for Braden Smith to make sure that he is making sure he's making sure. That is really well put. It's really important for him to make sure that he is still looking to score.
Yeah.
Because that's what opens this whole thing up. That's what opened up everything his sophomore year for Zach Edey and him. And his assists come from the respect he commands as a scorer. I should say his assists come from everywhere because he's a freaking savant. But it's so many of his assists come from the respect he commands as a scorer. So he has to make sure, and I don't need to tell him this. Nobody needs to tell him this. He knows this. When he's aggressive looking to score, that's where the assists really open up. And I thought he did a good job in that first game of, looking for the assists, but also not at the expense of him looking for his pull-up jumper or looking to go coast to coast in transition. I think the assist numbers get a serious boost this year from transition opportunities that are come off rebounding and block shots.
Mm-hmm.
Not a ton of block shots, but some block shots, which is more than Purdue had last year. And then it'll come from the fact that, those guys you had on the other side of the rim from Trakoff and Wren last year weren't very good at the rim.
Yeah.
So now when you're throwing the ball to Daniel Jacobson uncovered at the rim, he's going to make most of those dunks. He's going to get bodied up a lot. He's going to fumble the ball a bit every now and then, but it's not going to be an epidemic. You get him the ball at the rim in scoring territory, he's going to make 65, 75% of those shots. Oscar Clough is going to be the same way. So the efficiency boost from last season to this season is really going to affect Braden Smith's bottom line for the better in the assist column. And the transition thing is a game changer for him.
Yeah, when you talk also about numbers and, again, things you've talked about, not that this was your hot take or anything new, but important still the same. Daniel Jacobson, that is, and Oscar Clough, and their combined numbers. They had to, you're going to have to look at how those two guys are going to do together, and they had pretty good numbers against Evansville. I know Evansville had 20 offensive rebounds, but talk about that and the importance of really how – the best way to look at their production, because it's going to be a tag team effort, and it appears throughout the course of the year, and they look to be able to produce big numbers, efficient numbers at that position.
Yeah, if you look at if you had a player who It's not going to be this way every game. It's
No, I
not
understand.
even going to be remotely close to this every game. But if you had a player who got you 20 points, 18 rebounds, drew 7 fouls in 40 minutes, you'd think that guy's produced third candidate on the wooden list, right?
Yeah.
That's what the two centers combined for against Evansville. Again, warped reality. It's not going to be that way every game.
Sure.
But if it's anywhere in the same universe as those numbers, if you get 12 points and 8 rebounds a game from those two guys, they keep you on the positive end of the foul count. They block a shot every now and then. They shore up your rebounding, much more so than it was shored up last season. That's essentially another All Big Ten level producer in a starting lineup full of All Big Ten level producers. So I think it's best to look at what you're getting from the position more than each individual, because it might be a different guy each night. It
Right.
might be Oscar Clough has a great game one game, and then Daniel Jacobson in a different way is the guy the next game. Jacobson's not going to be perfect. Clough's not going to be perfect. Clough is not a very vertical guy. Doesn't get off the floor. Daniel Jacobson is still growing into his body. People are going to be physical with him. But he can reach basketballs nobody else can reach, and that goes a long way in basketball, as Purdue has shown a lot of people over the years. And I think you're just going to get access to a lot more possessions, a lot more fouls, a lot more basketballs than you could last season. And again, you're going to finish around the basket better at that position than you did last season, and that's just going to add a lot of productivity to this offense, because they left a lot, as good as they were offensively last year, they left a lot of meat on the bone.
Yeah. Jakari Harris and CJ Cox did not have statistically particularly big games against Evansville, but obviously going to play a huge role. Harris shooting the ball well, and Cox just is, again, a guy that is a high producer. Talk about their roles and how you see them. And do you see many situations where they're going to play together? Because they are two very, very stout defenders as well. How do you view that moving ahead? Maybe, again, not tonight against Oakland because of the opponent, but the importance of their ability to do what they do well and how that figures into the grand scheme of what Purdue can be this year.
Well, they were both awesome on the ball.
Yeah.
From a defensive perspective against Evansville. Again,
Yeah.
Evansville is Evansville. But in the context of what Purdue needs from those guys, they were both really, really good.
Yeah.
Purdue's defensive issue against Evansville wasn't its defense. It was its rebounding.
Yeah.
And its rebounding issue wasn't its rebounding per se, but it was this contradiction of you do a really good job defensively, you force a lot of tough threes from teams that aren't good at making those shots, but then you throw a frozen turkey up there, it comes off hard.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the team that's shooting the ball is facing the rim and they have a step on you, they beat you to the ball. Purdue just has to clean that up. They got to do a better job. Everybody just keeping a body on people, running down those long rebounds, things like that. So I don't think that Evansville game was really an indictment of Purdue's rebounding per se. I think they're going to be much better at the basket than they were a year ago. I think they're going to be better defensively, and I think Evansville reflected that in terms of the quality of shot Evansville took, which you can also look at what Kentucky did and perhaps take even more relevance out of that, even though that game was just an exhibition. But I don't think Kentucky wanted to be shooting 29 threes against Purdue.
Yeah.
Purdue's priority defensively is to keep the ball out of the paint, to stay out of defensive scrambles, things like that, to not give up layups and dunks.
Lux. I think that's a new term.
Lunks. I just created a word.
I know.
Do I have to trademark that?
Yes, I think you better get that done by
a customer service hotline at Merriam-Webster or something like that I can get in touch with?
We could have merchandising by next week if you do
it. It's a really funny word too. I like saying it.
Yeah.
So anyway, you don't want to give up layups. You don't want to give up dunks. You certainly don't want to give up lunks. And I
Love
think
it.
Purdue's done a pretty good job doing that so
Yeah.
far defensively. And if somebody wants to come in and shoot 33s in Mackey Arena against you, a lot of them off balance, a lot of them contested, go right ahead. I mean, you might have that 1 or 2 game a year where some team shoots 20 percentage points over its head and kind of makes things dicey, or even steals one from you, but it's better than giving up layups and dunks. So I think Purdue's done okay defensively, and Jakari Harris and CJ Cox were a really big part of it against Evansville. I thought they were really good. If anything, I think maybe they were a little too aggressive on the ball. I think CJ Cox overplayed some handoffs a couple of times, allowed some cuts. I think that was an issue against Kentucky too. Maybe they're being a little too aggressive. Maybe that has to do with the fact they've got centers behind them now, and the psychological impact gives them a little bit of sauciness in their confidence when pressuring the basketball. I don't know that Purdue doesn't want to be taking risks, but that's been the one issue, a very modest one, is that they've maybe been a little over aggressive on the ball. But you'd rather be over aggressive than the alternative.
Yeah. All right. We'll look for more of your work. Obviously, next week for the show, we may be able to catch you coming out of your Tuscaloosa hotel after Purdue plays Alabama, which they'll play next Thursday night. We'll work out our schedule, see if we can get that done. But look for Brian's work on goldenblack.com. It doesn't get any better. And, of course, if you're a YouTube, check us out on YouTube as well. And in terms of Purdue Sports and Recruiting, our goldenblack.com YouTube site. Brian, we'll be talking a lot to you this year. We appreciate your time. Your time because you're obligated, but we still appreciate it still the same, and appreciate all that you do. And we'll looking forward to a whole season of this on goldenblack.com and on Golden Black Live. Okay, we want to thank. I didn't even give me a chance to say thank you, but Brian does a great job. We appreciate him. We want to thank the good folks at WLFI, and that goes for TJ, Chris, Steve, Cody, on down the line. We appreciate all of you for helping us make this happen. Also, Triple X and State Farm agent Trent Johnson, trentismyagent.com. Triple X on the hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. Gary and Greg Ersman were in the stands for the Evansville game and had a chance to see Purdue firsthand. We appreciate them. So stay tuned. Next week, we'll have some exciting new guests for the show next Friday, leading into the Purdue-Washington football game. Tom Diener will be on the West Coast covering that, and of course Brian Neubert will be on the heels of the Purdue-Alabama men's basketball game. So have a great week, everybody. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week on Golden Black Live.